My name is Genesis Parker. I'm 36 years old, and I'm a software engineer. Right now, I live in Denver, Colorado, with Ethan and Lily. We moved here 2 years ago, after everything that happened in this story ripped my relationship with my family clean in half. Not because I was hiding, not because I was afraid of revenge, because I finally understood something I should have understood much earlier. A family can be poisonous, even when they smile while they pour it. The day that changed everything was Saturday, July 15th, 2023. Back then, we were still living near my parents in Phoenix, Arizona. We were close enough that my mom could show up with leftover casserole without calling first. Close enough that my dad could drop by to lecture me about my life like I was still 16. I remember the date so clearly because it was the day of Marcus's funeral. Marcus was my best friend from college. He died in a car accident, leaving behind his wife and 2 young kids, and the news hit me like a wrecking ball. Marcus wasn't just a friend. He was the kind of person who stayed, the kind who answered calls at 2 a.m., the kind who never let you feel alone. Ethan and I had planned to bring Lily, but she'd been traumatized after my mother-in-law's funeral 2 years earlier. The crowded room, the grief, the casket. Lily had nightmares for months afterward. We promised ourselves we wouldn't put her through that again. That morning, while we were getting ready, Ethan glanced at me in the bathroom mirror and asked quietly, "Are you sure it's okay to leave Lily at your parents' house?" His tone wasn't dramatic. Ethan doesn't do dramatic. He does careful. He does precise. He does the kind of caution that makes you think he's overreacting, until you realize he's usually right. "I could ask Sarah," he added. "She'd watch Lily. She trusts her." Sarah was my best friend. She was also pregnant and due any day, and I could already hear her laugh if I tried to drag her into our family mess. "No," I said, fastening my earrings with shaking fingers. "Sarah needs rest. It's just one day. My parents can handle one day." Ethan's eyes held mine in the mirror. Then he asked the question I didn't want to answer. "Is Brooke going to be there?" I hesitated, just for a beat, a tiny pause that said more than my words ever could. "Probably," I admitted, "but I'll tell my parents not to leave Brooke alone with Lily." Ethan's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. He didn't like that answer, but he also knew I was doing that thing I always did, trying to keep the peace in a family that didn't deserve it. "Genesis," he said, softer now, "I know she's your sister, but you've told me what she's like." I forced a smile I didn't feel. "She's a lot, but she wouldn't do anything truly insane." That was my biggest mistake, thinking a lot had a limit. Around 9 o'clock a.m., we dropped Lily off at my parents' house. The moment we walked in, I saw Brooke on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she owned the place. She looked up slowly, and her gaze landed on Lily. Not warm, not loving, more like assessing. Like Lily was an object Brooke had opinions about. Lily's small hand tightened around mine. I should have listened to that. Instead, I pushed it aside because grief was sitting on my chest, and all I could think about was Marcus and the funeral 2 hours away. Before leaving, I looked at my mom and said, "Please watch Lily for us. We'll be back before 6. My mom nodded quickly. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her." And because she was my mother, because I wanted to believe family meant safety, I believed her. As Ethan and I walked toward the door, Lily suddenly ran back and hugged me hard, her arms tight around my waist. "Mom," she whispered, her voice small, "I'm a little scared." I knelt down, smoothing her hair, her beautiful hair, behind her shoulders. "What are you scared of, sweetheart?" She hesitated, then shook her head like she couldn't explain it. "I don't know," she said. "It's just a feeling." I kissed her forehead and forced brightness into my voice. "It'll be fine. We'll be home soon." If I'd known what would happen later that day, I would have scooped my daughter up and carried her out with us, funeral or no funeral. That morning passed normally. At around 11:00 a.m., I video called my mom. Lily was in the living room, watching cartoons and drawing, her hair spilling over her shoulders in a golden curtain. My mom was in the kitchen baking, glancing over now and then like everything was fine. My dad was out for coffee with his friends. Everything looked normal. But I didn't see what the camera didn't show. The silence behind the scenes. The moment when an adult decided a child's no didn't matter. At about 5 o'clock p.m., Ethan and I pulled back into my parents' driveway. We were exhausted, grief-sore, hollow from saying goodbye to Marcus. I remember thinking only one thing as I reached for the front door. Just let Lily be okay. Please, just let her be okay. Then I opened the door and heard my daughter's heart breaking. I didn't even take my shoes off. I crossed the living room in 3 long strides and dropped to my knees beside Lily. Her face was blotchy and wet, the pillow beneath her cheek already dark with tears. When she saw me, Her mouth opened like she wanted to speak, but another sob stole the air from her lungs. "It's okay," I whispered, even though it wasn't. My hands shook as I gathered her into my arms. I could feel how tense she was, like her whole body had been bracing for something worse. Ethan crouched beside us too, one hand rubbing small circles on Lily's back. His eyes flicked over her hair again, those jagged, uneven chunks, and I saw something hard settle into his expression. Not rage like mine, something colder. "Mom," I called, my voice breaking on the word. "Where's Mom?" The house was too quiet, too neat. And then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. On the coffee table, right beside Lily's scattered crayons, sat a clump of blonde hair, like a trophy, like trash, like it meant nothing. I swallowed bile. Lily's voice came out small and trembling. "Grandma went somewhere." "Somewhere?" I echoed, barely able to keep my voice steady. She nodded and wiped her nose with the back of her hand. She said she needed ingredients. Ingredients. Like that explained anything. I held Lily tighter. "Baby, tell me what happened. Only if you can. I'm right here." Her eyes darted toward the hallway, toward the closed door that led to Brooke's room. Her shoulders rose like she was trying to protect her neck. Even in her own grandparents' house, she was afraid. "It started when Grandma left," Lily whispered. "Aunt Brooke said she learned a pretty hairstyle." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "She told me it was just braiding," Lily continued, her voice cracking. "I said no at first. I said I don't want to cut my hair, but she promised she wouldn't." Ethan's hand paused on Lily's back. His fingers curled slightly, like he was holding himself still. "She took me to the bathroom," Lily said, tears spilling again, "and she made me sit facing away from the mirror." My blood ran cold. "Why?" I asked, my voice too sharp. I forced it down. "Sorry, keep going, sweetheart. You're doing so good." "She said it was a surprise," Lily sniffed. Then I heard scissors. My heart thudded so hard it felt painful. "I turned around and asked what she was doing," Lily whispered. But she pushed my head forward again. She said, "Sit still. I'm just trimming a little bit." Lily's hands clenched into fists. I started crying. I tried to stand up. She held my shoulders, really tight, and she kept cutting. I felt like my lungs were filling with smoke. "Did you tell her to stop?" Ethan asked gently, voice careful. Lily nodded, sobbing harder. "I begged her. I said please. I said no. But she didn't listen." I closed my eyes for 1 second, and all I saw was my child trapped in a chair, an adult's hands forcing her still while something she loved was destroyed. It wasn't just hair. It was control. It was humiliation. It was a message. You don't get to decide what happens to you. When Lily looked up at me, her eyes were terrified. When she finally stopped, I ran out and saw myself in the hallway mirror. It looked bad, like she did it on purpose. I swallowed hard, trying not to cry in front of her, trying to be the steady thing she could hold on to. "And Grandma?" I asked. "What did Grandma do when she came home?" Lily's mouth trembled. She froze. She asked Aunt Brooke why. Aunt Brooke said, my hair was too long and messy. My vision blurred with rage. "And Grandma?" I pressed. Lily shrugged, small and defeated. "Grandma tried to hug me. She told me it's okay, but I kept crying. Then she got up and left the room." Left the room, like the problem would disappear if she didn't look at it. I looked at Ethan, and he looked back at me, and in his eyes I saw the same question forming. "How could they let this happen?" I wiped Lily's cheeks with my thumbs. "You did nothing wrong, okay? Nothing. You were so brave." Lily's voice broke like glass. "But my hair." "I know," I whispered. "I know, baby." Behind us, the front door opened. Footsteps, keys, a familiar heavy stride. My father's voice boomed from the entryway. "What's all this noise?" And with that one question, I knew, before I even turned around, that this wouldn't end quietly. I stood up slowly, Lily still wrapped in my arms. Ethan rose too, positioning himself slightly beside me, not in front, not behind, like a shield that didn't need to announce itself. My father walked in first, tall and broad, even at 62, retired from construction, but still carrying himself like he owned every room he entered. My mother followed him, quieter, eyes down, hands fussing with the strap of her purse. My dad took one look at Lily's hair and frowned, like she was a messy room he didn't feel like cleaning. "What happened?" he demanded. Ethan spoke first. His voice was level, controlled. "Brooke cut Lily's hair. Lily said no." My dad's gaze flicked from Lily to me to Ethan. Then he waved his hand like he was swatting away an inconvenience. "It's just a haircut," he said. "Hair grows back." Just a haircut. I felt something crack inside me. Not in a dramatic way. In a quiet, irreversible way, like a thread snapping that had been holding me to this family for years. Before I could speak, Brooke's bedroom door opened, and there she was. Brooke stood in the hallway wearing that same casual confidence she always wore, like the world existed to be entertained by her. Her hair was long, glossy, perfect, untouched. She looked at Lily, then at me, then smiled. "Oh," she said lightly, "you're back." Then, like she was announcing she'd cleaned a stain off the carpet, she added, "I cut Lily's hair. It looks much cuter now, doesn't it?" The air in the room went thick. Ethan's jaw tightened. I could feel his restraint like a heat coming off him. I stepped forward, voice shaking. "What did you do?" Brooke blinked innocently. "I just helped her. It was too long, too messy. Kids don't know what looks good." Lily flinched at Brooke's voice and pressed her face into my shoulder. That movement, my child shrinking from her own aunt, sent a surge of fury through me, so sharp it almost made me dizzy. Ethan's voice sliced through the tension, calm and deadly. She said no. Brooke rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, you're acting like I killed someone. It's hair. It grows back." My mother finally lifted her head and murmured, "Everyone, please calm down. We're family." Family. That word used to mean warmth to me. Now it sounded like a weapon. I turned to my mom, and my voice came out harsher than I intended. "Where were you?" She blinked, startled. "Genesis, I went out for a bit." "A bit?" I repeated. My hands trembled around Lily. A bit was long enough for Brooke to hold my daughter still and cut her hair while she cried and begged. My father stepped forward, pointing at me like I was the problem. "You're letting your boyfriend stir up chaos in my house. You need to control this." Ethan's eyebrows lifted slightly, not in surprise. In disbelief. "I'm not anyone's property," I said, my voice low, "and neither is my daughter." Brooke laughed. Actually laughed, then crouched slightly so she could address Lily in that fake sweet tone adults use when they want a child to betray themselves. "Lily," she cooed, "doesn't your new hair look pretty? I helped you. You'll thank me later." Lily shrank back farther. Her voice was so quiet it almost wasn't there. "I didn't want it." Brooke shrugged. "She's little. She doesn't know what's best. Adults decide." Ethan inhaled slowly. When he spoke, every word landed like a nail. Touching a child's body without consent can be considered assault in Arizona, especially if force is involved. Brooke's smile flickered, then returned sharper. "Are you threatening me with law stuff in my parents' house? You think the police will arrest me for cutting hair?" She turned to my dad. "Dad, tell them." My father nodded immediately, like a king delivering a judgment. "Brooke did nothing wrong. You're all making a big deal out of nothing." "Nothing." I looked at Lily's uneven hair again, looked at her swollen eyes, looked at how her hands kept twisting the edge of my shirt like she was trying to hold herself together. This wasn't nothing. This was my daughter, learning that grown-ups can hurt you and call it love. Ethan pulled his phone out, slowly, deliberately. My father's face darkened. "What are you doing?" Ethan's voice didn't waver. "Calling 911. For 1 second, the room went silent. Then my father exploded. "Get out of my house!" he roared, stepping toward Ethan. "You dare call the police on my daughter? Get out, all of you!" My mother's voice rose in panic, thin and pleading. "Please, stop. Don't do this. It's family business. Genesis, talk to Ethan. This is a small thing." And that was it. Something inside me finally broke free. I snapped my head toward my mother, eyes burning. "Mom, stop!" She froze, shocked, like she'd never heard me speak that way before. Maybe she hadn't. I took a trembling breath. "You promised me you'd take care of Lily. You looked me in the eye, and you left her alone with Brooke." My mother's lips parted, but no words came out. My father kept shouting, demanding we leave, demanding Ethan control himself, demanding I respect my family. But all I could hear was Lily's whisper from earlier. "I'm scared. It's just a feeling." She felt it. She knew. And I ignored her. I looked down at Lily, then at Ethan. Then I looked at my parents, the people who taught me to be polite, to be quiet, to keep the peace, even when it tasted like blood. And I realized something, standing in the middle of that living room. I had two families, the one I came from, and the one I chose and swore to protect. Ethan leaned close to me and spoke so softly only I could hear. "Genesis, put Lily in the car, now." His voice was calm, but his eyes were fixed on Brooke like she was a threat he was assessing, not a relative he was tolerating. I nodded. No debate, no hesitation. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't choosing peace. I was choosing my child. I carried Lily outside, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. I buckled her into the back seat with shaking hands, smoothing her ruined hair back as gently as I could. "Stay here," I whispered, forcing softness into my voice. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone, okay? Lily nodded, tears still sliding down her cheeks. Mom, are you leaving me? My throat tightened. No, I promised. Never. I'm right here. I'm just going to make sure nobody hurts you again. I closed the car door. Then I turned back toward the house. And with every step I took, I felt like I was walking toward something I couldn't undo. Because inside that house, my family was still screaming. And Ethan, quiet, controlled Ethan, was about to stop being patient. When I stepped back inside the house, the temperature felt different. Not colder, sharper, like the air before a storm breaks something apart. Ethan stood in the middle of the living room, perfectly still. His jacket was folded neatly over the stair railing. His phone lay face down on the console table, untouched. Brooke was still near her bedroom door, arms crossed, chin lifted in defiance. My father paced like a caged animal, muttering under his breath. My mother hovered near the kitchen entrance, wringing her hands, eyes darting from face to face like she was hoping someone else would fix this for her. No one noticed me at first. Then Ethan moved. Without a word, he turned and walked into the kitchen. Something in my gut twisted hard. Brooke scoffed. What? Now he's storming off? Typical. I followed Ethan to the kitchen doorway just as he opened a drawer and reached inside. Metal glinted under the overhead light. Scissors. Not the small kind. The heavy-duty kitchen ones my mom used to cut through thick packaging. Ethan closed his fingers around them. Brooke's laugh died instantly. Hey, what are you doing? She asked, her voice suddenly higher. Ethan didn't answer. He walked back into the living room, his steps slow, deliberate. Not rushed, not angry in the way people expect anger to look. Controlled anger is much worse. My father noticed the scissors and immediately stepped forward. Put that down, he barked. Are you out of your mind? Ethan didn't even look at him. His eyes were locked on Brooke. Brooke's confidence cracked. She took a step back. Stop being dramatic. You're not actually... Ethan took another step toward her. That's when she panicked. Dad, she shrieked. Do something. My father lunged forward, but I moved on instinct, stepping directly into his path. Genesis, move, he snapped, trying to shove past me. I planted my feet. For 36 years, I'd stepped aside. I'd softened my voice. I'd swallowed my anger to keep this family intact. Not today. No, I said. The word felt foreign in my mouth. Powerful, final. My father stared at me like I'd slapped him. What did you say? I said no, I repeated, my voice shaking but loud. You're not touching him. Behind me, everything exploded. Ethan grabbed Brooke by the back of her hair. She screamed. A raw animal sound ripped out of her throat as he yanked her backward. Her arms flailed, nails scraping against his wrists as she tried to break free. Let go of me, she shrieked. Dad, Dad! Ethan didn't say a word. He dragged her through the living room, past the front door, and out onto the lawn. The door flew open. Sunlight flooded the room. And suddenly, this wasn't just a family fight anymore. It was public. Brooke fought wildly, heels digging into the floor, hands clawing at anything she could reach. Ethan was stronger than she expected. Years of quiet discipline behind that calm exterior. He hauled her down the front steps and shoved her onto the grass. She landed face down with a cry. Neighbors started to appear. Mr. Thompson from next door froze halfway down his driveway, coffee mug hovering uselessly near his lips. Across the street, Mrs. Martinez stepped onto her porch, phone in hand, unsure whether she was filming or calling for help. Two kids from the Wilson house pressed their faces against the screen door, eyes wide like they were watching something forbidden. My mother screamed behind me. Genesis, stop him, please! My father tried again to push past me, fury twisting his face. Move! He slammed into me, hard enough to knock the air out of my lungs. I didn't move. I grabbed the doorframe with both hands and held on. Behind me, Brooke's screaming escalated into hysterics. Please, someone help me. He's crazy. Ethan pressed one knee into her back, pinning her to the ground. She thrashed, grass tearing under her fingers, dirt smearing her face. The scissors came up. The first cut was loud. Snipe. A thick lock of Brooke's long brown hair fell onto the lawn. Her scream pierced the air. No, no, stop, I'll sue you. You're insane. Snip. Another chunk fell. And another. I felt my stomach twist violently, but I didn't look away, because all I could see was Lily in that bathroom chair, crying, trapped, ignored. This wasn't random violence. This was a mirror. Ethan worked methodically. No yelling, no insults. Each cut precise, intentional. Hair scattered across the green grass like fallen leaves, forming a grotesque halo around them. Brooke's voice went hoarse from screaming. Mom! Dad! Do something! My father roared in my face, spittle flying. Are you going to let him do this to your sister? I stared back at him, tears streaming down my face, voice breaking, but unyielding. She did this to my daughter first. My mother collapsed onto the floor just inside the doorway, sobbing, hands clasped like she was praying for forgiveness she'd never asked for. Outside, Ethan kept cutting. Brooke's hair was ruined, uneven, jagged, some sections hacked close to the scalp, others left hanging awkwardly. Worse than Lily's. Deliberately worse. Finally, Brooke stopped fighting. She lay there, face pressed into the grass, shoulders shaking, hands tangled in dirt and hair. Her sobs turned quiet, broken. Ethan stood up. He looked down at her once, then spoke for the first time since picking up the scissors. Now you know how my daughter felt. Silence fell heavy over the yard. Then, a taxi pulled up. The sound of tires on gravel made everyone turn. The door opened, and my grandmother stepped out. She was 82 years old, leaning on her cane, her posture bent, but her presence hit the scene like a judge entering a courtroom. She took it all in without a word. Brooke on the ground, hair destroyed. Ethan standing over her with scissors in hand, me blocking the door. Neighbors frozen in place, like spectators who hadn't paid for a ticket but couldn't look away. Grandma walked forward slowly, each step deliberate, authoritative. Ethan saw her first and froze. She stopped a few feet from Brooke, looked down at the mess of hair and grass and tears. Then she lifted her gaze to my father. Larry called me, she said calmly. Said your house had turned into a circus. My father rushed toward her, voice shaking with rage. Mom, you see this? His boyfriend attacked Brooke. We need to call the police. Grandma raised one hand. Just one. My father fell silent. She turned to me. Genesis, she said. Tell me what happened. My voice trembled, but I told her everything. Lily, the bathroom, the scissors, the crying, the begging. When I finished, Grandma turned her gaze to Brooke, still lying on the grass. Is that true? She asked. Brooke sobbed. I just wanted what was best for her. Her hair was too long, too messy. Grandma's eyes hardened. I didn't ask for your excuse, she said. I asked if it's true that you cut her hair after she said no. Brooke went silent. Grandma nodded once. Then she turned to Ethan. Get up, she said gently. I understand why you did it, but this is enough. Ethan stood, stepping away, scissors still in his hand. Grandma faced my father again. You and Brooke will apologize to Lily, she said. Right now. My father's face twisted. What? Are you serious? Brooke staggered to her feet, hair destroyed, face streaked with dirt and tears. I won't apologize, she screamed. I did nothing wrong. My father nodded. Neither will I. Grandma stared at them. Long, cold. Then she spoke two words that made my skin prickle. Fine then. She turned to me. Genesis, she said. Call the police. For a moment, no one moved. Not my father, not Brooke, not even the neighbors, who stood frozen in the late afternoon sun like witnesses who hadn't realized they'd been summoned to court. My father let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. You've lost your mind, Mom. Call the police? For what? So they can arrest him? Grandma didn't blink. Call them so they can arrest everyone who deserves it, she said evenly. And I promise you, Brooke's crime will weigh heavier than his. That was the first time I saw fear flicker across my father's face. I pulled my phone from my pocket with hands that finally felt steady. My fingers didn't shake as I dialed. I'd crossed something inside myself already. There was no going back. When the dispatcher answered, my voice sounded distant to my own ears as I explained what had happened. Child. Non-consensual physical act. Assault. Disturbance. I hung up and looked at Lily through the car window. She sat small and silent in the back seat, her eyes following every movement, her hands folded in her lap like she was afraid to touch anything. I'm right here, I mouthed through the glass. She nodded. The police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 cars, flashing lights, the unmistakable sound of authority pulling into a place that had always hidden behind the word family. Everything fractured at once. Brooke collapsed onto the front steps, clutching her destroyed hair and sobbing like the world had ended. My father paced, red-faced, shouting about lawsuits and rights. My mother sat inside the house, staring at nothing, still refusing to say the words that mattered. Ethan stood near the car, calm again, his hands visible, his posture open. Grandma lowered herself into a porch chair, cane resting across her knees, eyes sharp as knives. The officers separated us. One took me aside, another spoke with Ethan. A third approached Lily, kneeling so he was eye level with her. I told my story first. I showed photos on my phone, Lily's long hair from before, birthday pictures, school photos, videos of her brushing it with care like it was something alive. Then I pointed to my daughter in the car. The officer's jaw tightened. Ethan told his side without excuses. He didn't deny what he'd done. He explained why. Defense of a child who had already been violated. Brooke screamed her version, pointing at Ethan, pointing at her hair, wailing that she was the real victim. My father echoed her outrage, demanding arrests, threatening everyone in uniform. Then the officer spoke to Lily. I watched through the window as my daughter explained, softly but clearly, how Brooke had held her shoulders down, how she couldn't stand up, how she begged her to stop. I watched the officer's expression change. CPS arrived. That's when everything truly shifted. They spoke to Lily alone. No parents, no grandparents, no pressure. When they came back, their faces were professional, but firm. 2 hours later, the officers gathered us together. Based on our preliminary investigation, one officer announced, we have sufficient cause to proceed with charges related to child abuse and assault. Brooke screamed. That's insane. I just cut her hair. The officer's voice was calm, unyielding. Ma'am, touching a child's body without consent, especially with force, is a criminal matter under Arizona law. My father lunged forward. You can't do this. Another officer stepped between them. Sir, stand back. He didn't. And so he was handcuffed too. My mother cried then, really cried, but still, not once did she say Brooke was wrong. Ethan was asked to come in for questioning as well. Before he left, he leaned down so Lily could hear him through the cracked window. I love you, he said softly. You did everything right. Lily pressed her small hand to the glass. Grandma came with me that night. She sat quietly in the passenger seat as I drove Lily home, her presence heavy but grounding. That night was the longest of my life. The trial happened in September 2023. Brooke was sentenced to 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory psychological counseling, and a 5-year no-contact order with Lily. My father was fined $2,000 and placed on 6 months probation for obstruction. Ethan's lawyer argued defense of others. He was found not guilty. Justice, for once, wasn't vague. It was clear. A month later, after long talks with Lily, we packed up our life and moved to Denver, Colorado. 2 years have passed. Lily's hair has grown back. Not the same, but hers. Stronger. So is she. We visit Grandma every few months. We don't see my parents, we don't see Brooke. And I don't miss them. Because here's what I learned. When a child says no, listen. When your partner warns you, pay attention. And when forced to choose between family peace and your child's safety, there is no choice at all. This is where my story ends. If you were in my place, what would you have done?